Sam, turn your speakers off. Sam, turn your speakers off. Sam, turn your speakers off.
I did.
Sam, turn your speakers off.
I did.
Okay, hold on. We're having a glitch.
I did.
Okay. Sam, turn your speakers
I
off.
did.
Okay, hold on. We're having a glitch.
I did.
Okay. Sam, turn your speakers
I
off.
did.
Okay, hold on. We're having a glitch.
I did.
Okay. Sam, turn your... Okay, can y'all hear me?
Yes, I can.
We redid the intro. What do you think of the intro, guys? We redid it. You like it?
Yeah, it's a remix.
It's the club mix, you know?
No
we redid the intro. What do you think of the intro, guys? We redid it. You like it?
Yeah, it's a remix.
The club mix.
Sorry about that, folks. I seem to have a hidden window open that was open to the chat room. And it because I'm working on one screen, I have so many windows open that I couldn't find it. It was me that had their speakers on. Oh, hell. But welcome to Beyond the Trailer Park, episode 182. And Miss Morgan, welcome.
Hey, how are you?
Well, after that little hairy glitch, I'm not quite sure. That was bizarre. I'm so sorry. I am so sorry, y'all. Oh, I didn't want to do that. Oh, well. So, and introducing Miss Sam, and we will come back to that in a moment. But how are you, Sam?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm scared to talk in case it echoes it a bunch of times. No, I'm checking.
Oh, yeah, that. Oh my God, that's what happens when you have to run on one screen. I thought my other screen would work, but I need some type of adapter, and I have to figure out what I need. So, and for those that don't know, I'm Beth, aka Dune, from the wilds of Pennsylvania. But before we get into introducing Sam properly, a couple things to get the ball rolling. Tonight, obviously, is going to be a bit strange, besides the obvious. As you can tell, I'm still on a huge learning curve with software and to use to produce the show. So there's some things I'm going to be experimenting with. The beginning was not one of them. But hopefully the slideshow is coming over. Basically, it's just a collection of memes that I gathered to give you something besides my ugly face. Now, Sam and Morgan, their faces are made for video. Mine is not, but just something to play around with as I figure out the software. Um, these are just basically memes that have been floated around on Facebook, some Twitter. They're in no specific order. There's no specific theme to them. Just something to look at. We're gonna have a TWATs episode this week. For some reason, it seemed to write itself, so I'll be experimenting with that as well. And as I'm still figuring things out, if you notice any issues with the audio, specifically mine, if we're too loud, if we're too soft, if sound's not coming through properly, please let us know so I can hopefully tweak. I know I sometimes come off as tinny. I have a feeling that has to do with my headset right now, so there's probably not much I can do. But if any of you are audio gurus who have suggestions, you can suggest it in chat, send us a PM, whatever. I'd love to hear about it. Any feedback would be appreciated as I get the hang of this stuff. And what?
I love that one. That.
Oh yeah, that one is one of my favorites. That's why I threw it in there. Well, technically, autism causes vaccines. I've been in some recent discussions concerning autism, so that's why that one came to mind. But obviously, Beyond a Trailer Park, as of now, is going to continue somehow with lots of help. I've actually managed to book the next 6 or 7 weeks with guests. Other podcasters to start. We do have one interview coming up with a Canadian pro-choice advocate, and we're going to have an interesting discussion. So as I get more information, I will pass it along. Suggestions for topics, suggestions for guests, whether they are bloggers, or podcasters, or authors, send them our way. And last bit of laundry. As far as what we're going to cover, I don't think much is going to change. We're still going to be 3 women bitching on the phone for all the world to hear. But we'll get more into that as we go through the night. So Morgan, what's new with you?
Absolutely nothing. Still waiting on my law license, so that's fun. And you just told me, you were like, "Oh yeah, the government might shut down again on February 15th." So yeah, I don't think I'll ever get to practice law. They're not going to let me. They're like, "You passed the bar, but not quite yet."
Yeah. That's just pathetic. I mean,
Yeah.
for somebody like you who can't advance without your license, you're
No,
just stuck.
I can't even like apply for jobs because they're like, "Are you licensed?" And I'm like, "No."
Not
I have to be in good standing with a bar,
mm,
so we'll see. Hopefully, I hear something this week. Eventually, I mean, I'll let everybody know through social media. But other than that, it's just
yeah.
everything's dumb all the time now. So yeah, a lot of
And
that going on.
Sam,
Unmuting is such a good thing to do.
yes, it is, dear. So we had a third chair to fill, and regretfully, I literally had to decide whether Beyond a Trailer Park was going to continue or not within 12 hours of said incident. Not exactly something that thrilled me. Now, Deb and I had talked about bringing Sam on, and we've had her on a couple times. And Sam had expressed to Deb and Deb to me about Sam's interest in podcasting. So we were contemplating having her come on anyways. And I was going to ask her, but she beat me to it. So, Samantha, welcome to the family.
I was a little eager, so I
Yes,
didn't
you were.
hesitate. Didn't hesitate. Just no, I want to be on.
I want to be on. Can I take Deb's place? Basically, I mean, it was like,
Pick up the work. She was doing good work.
and I know you told us a little about yourself last week.
Yes, during the memorial a little bit, but it was more about her. Wasn't really about me, so I didn't want to get into too much.
Yeah. So whatever you're comfortable with, obviously don't tell us something that you're not comfortable sharing worldwide, so to speak. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so I first appeared on this show years ago when Miss Ashley was still co-hosting as well, way back in the day, way back. And then one of the guests, I can't remember if it was lovely Miss Callie or lovely Miss Marissa there, but one of the guests was on, and Deb invited me on to come on as well there. And this was before I'd come out.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent the whole episode, gonna be like, crap, maybe I'm trans. The entire episode. I didn't want to say anything. Like, I didn't say anything at the time, but very, very shortly after that. Yeah, very shortly after that, actually, funny enough. I think it was like I was on the show, and then a couple months later it had happened. So it's very quick.
I remember when Deb told me, she just basically said to me that dead name will now be known as Sam. I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna fuck this up. I know I am. Because
you did so well. You did so well.
The funny thing is, for me, anyways, and I think Morgan, you were kind of late to your introduction to Sam, but for me, I was like, I know I'm gonna fuck this up because all the people that I know that are trans, you are the only one that I knew prior to coming out.
Yes.
I mean, I know people in real life, okay, but I'm talking people that I socialize with on social media. Yeah. I'm like, my biggest fear, and I said to Deb, just kick me in the ass somehow. I don't know how. Grow your leg longer so it reaches from on there. I said, I know I'm going to fuck this up. Because I'm terrible with pronouns. I have a hard time. It's just, I don't know why. I seem to do okay with it, but sometimes I do slip. I mean, I'm human. But, so I'm like, oh, how many times am I going to slip and dead name her? But I don't think I have.
No, sweet thing. Like, you've been phenomenal about it.
And I think that's what's so important is that, I mean, obviously I remember you as dead name. Okay, because I pretty much met you and Deb almost simultaneously. I mean, Deborah introduced me to you almost instantaneously.
Hard to miss me. I had like the Duck Dynasty beard going on and stuff. Like, you couldn't. I know.
So yeah, but go on with your story.
Yeah. So, golly, I've been guesting a little bit on this show, and I've been thinking for a little while that I did want to get into podcasting more. And got super crazy ambitious, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to start my own show, and it's going to be in blocks and this and that, and here's my format. And then, people who have done this before and longer than me kindly sat me down and said, Sam, you're going to burn yourself out in like 3 fucking seconds, so just slow down. Start off with Beyond the Trailer Park. Start there, work your way up.
Well, I think Morgan, you're kind of in on this too. I mean, one of the biggest things that Deb and I encourage is the more voices, the merrier.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's specifically towards secular or atheism or, in that genre, or if it's specifically LGBTQ issues. But the more voices that lean more towards the left or towards progressivism, especially, well, you and Sam are both 30 years younger than me. Um, I think that's important because you are the future of this country. And I think the more your voices are heard, the better. And that's something that Deb and I try to encourage in anybody. Oh, you want to start? Go for it. Start a podcast. Deb was more technically apt than I was until I got this computer, and now I'm like crash coursing. But like I've been blogging since 2001. That's a long time to blog, but I love it. I mean, I've had to change a few things due to my health, but I still do it, primarily what I do. And it's because I love doing it. And whether people read my blog, I don't really care because I do it for myself. But I do know people read because I'm almost up to 500,000 readers. Granted, it's taken 18 years. But, I'm happy with it. And, that's why I personally do not hesitate with bringing Sam on board. I mean, I had to talk to Morgan about it, obviously. And I talked to a couple other people, and they were like, yeah. So we're gonna have some fun with it. Now, what about your journey to atheism, Sam? How did you?
Yeah, what flavor were you, as we would usually say?
Yes, what flavor were you in? I mean, I know you were raised.
So I was raised like Pentecostal, shaken on the floor for Jesus type funness. That one, the talking in tongues bullshit, which I love. I love that stuff because you can just say anything. It's like two people that get together and give each other an ego boost for no reason other than that. It's like one person says the bullshit, the other person translates the bullshit, and both of them are blessed by God. I speak in tongues now when I'm like swearing. I'm like, about a shunda, about Jesus, something or other, just. But no, I just, right at a young age, it just was ridiculously scary and not making any sense at the same time. I just really, really dire consequences to not doing the Jesus thing, but like really convoluted, not explained well. I fully recognized right away that my children's Bible was not as expansive as a normal one. So I was like, why is this information different and filtered? And so I think between about 12 and 14, I think it was, when I started to just got so sick of it. And I was starting to femme out and gay out more. And so definitely the church wasn't welcoming me there either anymore, unfortunately. So I became an abomination. So here I am now.
Theoretically, if one were to look up the proper use of the term abomination, we're not abominations.
Yeah, it's the villain it's the villain from the Incredible Hulk. I know who it is.
Oh man.
That's one of my talking points when I'm arguing with theists, primarily, who try to use the abomination angle. It's like, no, abomination doesn't mean what you think it means. I'm not ritually unclean because I don't do rituals, but yeah, I get into that whole thing. But
what if I do rituals?
Yeah, I'd have to look it up again exactly because the Hebrew use of the word to'iba, is nothing like how it's being used against homosexuality.
Because I'm kind of into gay rituals.
Yeah. Well, basically what it is, and of course the theists say this is homosexual theology, but it comes down to that it's the cultural significance behind a man dominating another man. Don't act like a woman in bed.
Yeah.
And it gets into the whole cultic sexual practices and stuff like that. But yeah, it's people like Robert Gagnon, who is a complementarian, who believes that woman was made to complement the man. It calls it a
Or like tell him his shirt's nice every day or something.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. You have to give him ego boost because her ego is not big enough.
yeah. But basically he calls the my thoughts concerning gay theology. You'll hear it from Matthew Vines with he uses this argument as well as
Gay
John
theology.
gay theology. It's like, this is basically the culture of the times, and this is what I mean. One of the things I'd like to do is to delve into a bit more apologetics, like maybe do a segment, once or twice a month, where
Mm-hmm.
we an apologetic point and rip it to shreds. Because one of the things I've noticed, and I'm pretty sure you guys do too, is that they totally ignore the culture. They totally ignore the history. Some preachers don't believe in going back to the original Greek, Hebrew, or Aramaic because demons. They only accept sorry, I have the hiccups, the 1611 King James Version of the Bible, which, from a language point of view, it's, it's like Shakespearean language, but it's a shitty Bible.
Oh no, I actually went to the last sermon that I got dragged to. The preacher started like he went on some wild tangents. I was like, "Where are we going here?" Cuz it was Christmas, so I was like, "Okay, I can handle a Christmas thing, baby Jesus, angels, whatever, that's fine." And then he started talking about how this is just a quick aside from what I was going to talk about, but he was like, "Oh yeah, I will never teach my child about Santa because if she finds out that there's no Santa when she's older, she's going to be like, what else were you lying to me about? Were you also lying to me about Jesus?" And it took everything in me to not burst out laughing. So I was just like, became really interested in the little brochure, I was just like, hymns. And so there was that, and then he did say that I think he said the King James Version Bible, I can't remember what number he said. I want to say it was 7th. He was like, it's the 7th translation of the English Bible. He was like, it's the 7th version of the Bible in English, so therefore it's like perfect, and the NIV is not the same, and all this other stuff. And then I was like, okay, so do we have to translate the Bible in Spanish 7 times, and then whatever the 7th version of a Spanish one is good? Like, what's happening there? Like, no one even knew about the English language wasn't around even then. Like, so, like, what are you on? But
What
yeah.
What's bizarre about that whole thing? I actually have a book that I started 15 years ago, and when I switched computers way back, I lost a lot of my research material. It didn't transfer over for some reason, so I had to basically start all over again. And one of the things I discovered is, like what you said, is that the King James is not the first English language translation of the Bible. So it's like, yeah, we could go on for hours about that. It's like, and that's something I'd like to bring is, take, like the word abomination and rip that to shreds and, just to do like an apologetic segment. So it's just something to keep in mind. But as I said, suggestions are welcome for topics to hit. We're pretty open ended about it, but
Yeah, and I'd be interested if listeners have like just absolutely out of control sermons that they've witnessed, like to share some of those, because I would love to do, maybe a show or a segment on just, some of the things that people are saying, because, I'm not in the pews, obviously, as an atheist, but I do know some people, there are circumstances where we all, sometimes we get dragged to church, whether it's to please relatives or to go to a wedding or a thing. And so, yeah, sometimes you do hear some crazy stuff. So I'd be interested in getting feedback for that as well.
well, one of the things I was contemplating for myself is to get a recorder and go to the local churches and just tape the sermon part. And
Why would you do that to yourself?
I'm thinking, no, this town is too fucking small. I could really start some really nasty rumor bullshit, and I know there's a boatload online. I for a while I was ripping apart Steven Anderson, but yeah.
Yeah, Pastor Manning's also wild. He does sermons online.
And the thing that kills me about like Manning and Steven Anderson is or Matt Powell's another one, but I think it's Sliced Rhino is ripping apart his sermon, so that would be kind of redundant. Is that theologically, I mean, in my opinion, they're totally fucking clueless. I mean, Joel Osteen's the same way. I mean, granted, he does it all nice and smiley, but yeah. So there's a couple of possibilities. As I said before, Deb was doing the creation moments, and I just signed up for the newsletter like 20 minutes before showtime. So I might start bringing that back. It's really hard. I discovered because I do listen to a lot of podcasts. I watch a lot of videos on YouTube from an apologetic standpoint, like Paulogia does Ken Ham and AIG News, and Vice Rhino does a lot, similar like with different sermons and stuff. So it's like trying to find content that already hasn't been done without going back a few years. So
I wish I still had a copy of it, or like I had taped a copy of it. But when I was younger, there was a Christmas sermon we witnessed one year where the pastor literally talks about, the three wise men were basically astrologers. That's what they were. They were pagan astrologers. If the Bible story even fucking exists, like these people would have been pagan astrologers, and all the audience was like, oh, like all these like old Christian ladies freaking out because he said the bad word. He said the bad word.
They were like, I'm a Gemini. We aren't compatible. Because that's where my mind goes as soon as I hear astrology. But yeah, it's so funny because I do remember when I was at that crazy Christian school, there were some girls in my dorm that were just looking at horoscopes for just fun. They weren't like putting their life, fortunes on, what it was saying or anything crazy like that. It was just like, oh, I'm just on Yahoo. So what is my horoscopes? Before they started like really locking down the internet, which is it was already pretty locked down. So I'm even surprised that, and our computer use was severely restricted. But while she was like had to use the computer for some assignment, she was like, oh, I'm just gonna go, and see what my astrology thing is, just because I'd like an escape of, from this hellhole I'm living in. So a moment of escapism. So yeah, but then my our dorm mom came in and like started yelling at her and being like, that's the devil and everything. And I was just like, I don't think it's that serious. I mean, it's in the little coffee news I picked up at Quiznos back home. I mean, it's not I don't think you're going to open the gates to hell there if you're doing the Yahoo's horoscopes.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, like there's some memes floating around with the signs. If you do Reiki, astrology, massage, a whole bunch of that's all of the devil. And I'm thinking, well, okay, because when I went to college, when I was a freshman, we could not dance, we could not listen to secular music. The only
none of that.
The only radio station we could actually get was the college radio station, which of course was a Christian music station, although they didn't play a lot of Christian music. We couldn't have our own stereos at the time. We couldn't play cards. We could play Uno, but we could not play with regular, poker style.
Well, yeah, because that's gambling, even though it's not with money, which was always bananas to me. That it was like, if you're not playing with money, then it's not gambling, is it?
Well, they also
They're based on tarot cards too. The playing cards, poker cards are based on tarot cards. So if you get the right Christian fundy, they're like, oh, it's even more Satan, more Satan.
Well, I mean, I knew they didn't like tarot cards, but I did not know playing cards were based on tarot cards. I thought, I don't know, they were just something completely different because I'm dumb sometimes.
No, no.
I never got that connection.
When I was drawn into the paranormal bullshit.
Oh, that's right. You and Deb were ghost chasers.
We were.
You were too?
I was more into the psychic bullshit and convinced that I was empathic and clairvoyant. And instead of tarot cards, I used playing cards to read your, quote, fortune. And so that's where that, that whole connection at the school I went to was. And then there was a whole list of things that we couldn't do. By my sophomore year, we could bring our own stereos, but we could only play, really, you could only get school station. But you could not play, like, I had a turntable attached to mine. We couldn't play any secular music on it. Then they lessened that because they started letting people listen to secular music in the student lounge in the dorm. That's how I shattered my big toe when Jump came on, thinking I could jump up 3 steps, and caught the lip of the top step and broke my big toe in 5 places. Yeah, that was fun.
Talking about crisscross will make you jump.
Yeah, and then there's that song. But yeah, it's just it's funny how, like, I mean, you know, for high school you went to that school, and Sam, I don't know if you're aware of it, but I converted to Pentecostalism.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, back in the day, I was raised Lutheran and ended up Pentecostal charismatic. Yeah, figure that one out. But it's just crazy. But one of the questions I wanted to ask, well, both of you, is that I think in general, like with Deb and I specifically, and Morgan obviously, is that we pretty much take all opinion, whether it's a polished opinion or an unpolished opinion. Like sometimes I will literally talk out my ass. I might know what I'm talking about, but it's not something that I would present to somebody because, but get me going on, homosexuality in the Bible. I have a whole presentation laid out. I just haven't done it in a long time. For you, Sam, what do you hope to bring to Beyond the Trailer Park besides humor?
I've just been so blessed by the Spirit of Christ. I want to bring that love of Jesus to the table if I can.
Look a doobie girl.
I told you that's what I did before the show. Well, I'm not Deb, but I've definitely been ridiculously influenced by her. Adopted mom took me in. So I can definitely bring similar elements to the table, that's for sure. Similar knowledge, similar interests in some things, for sure. But, it is going to be different. It's definitely going to be different. Maybe something new. Well, I like Triss's comment about playing gin rummy with tarot cards. You saw that now. There you go. Yeah, we got a lot of viewers tonight. I noticed it peaked up quite a lot of live viewers. It's nice. Thank you all of my friends who tuned in tonight, supporting me on my first night.
Let's see if we can get this right. I'll do a shout out. We have Pink Florence, Papa Panda, hello Triss, and Trippin's in there. Let's see who else. T-Bird Sci-Fi Fan, I think, is another friend of yours, Sam.
Yep, that would be another lovely friend of mine. Yeah.
And if I missed anybody, I'm sorry. but I have my screen resolution up to 200% magnification. I still can't read it. The joys of being blind. But I think one thing that I'm kind of excited about is the sense that you will. We pretty much have the LGBT spectrum covered.
Yeah, because I'm bi. Beth
I'm
is
a-
a lesbian.
and
Samantha's
I just leak
trans.
gay everywhere. I'm just like leaking all forms of gayness everywhere. Like,
Yeah.
don't ask about the cork. It's ridiculous. Like,
Oh
and
man.
you know, it sounds kind of redundant because I don't want to just be an LGBT show. You know, I mean, there are two that I can think off the top of my head within the atheist community that I wouldn't even be able to match a stick to. I mean, and I'm talking about Kelly's Atheist Manifesto and versus various iterations. I can't even think inciting incident being one, but I can't think of all
the
the names.
sister getting out of hand is the other
Yeah,
one. Great, I
yeah,
love
that's
that one.
That's a good one.
You know, she's a published author and stuff, so I don't want to step on their toes because, you know, as far as trans issues, I cannot hold a match to Deb as far as debating the ins and outs like she could. I know just enough to get myself into trouble. I'd be like, "Oh, Sam, help!" You know.
Oh no. Just because I am, I take all my advice from a cis white doctor guy.
Yeah. So I mean, I know just enough to get myself into trouble where I'd probably get my ass handed to me on the platter. But you know, I think it's important that not just as atheists, not just as secular individuals, whether you're atheist, agnostic, humanist, you know, we include all types. I think, especially with you guys being younger than, you know, this old farty over here, is that that's the perspective we need to get out there. Not just because we're atheists, but because we are human. I mean, I don't like labels per se. I use them because, you know, when you're talking to an adult, that's the only thing they understand. Um, I'm very egalitarian in my, you know, in my views. I mean, we all bleed red, and that's what it boils down to for me. So sometimes I miss the nuance. I remember talking to Morgan in Tennessee, you know, and I told her point blank, I just don't understand some things. Not because I don't want to, I just can't wrap my head around it. Where and I think where, you know, Morgan and where Sam come in, they can, you know, if they can explain it to me, they can explain it to everybody, and I think that's what's, you know, and it's not just, you know, those issues, but you have the issues of separation of church state, getting as many views as we can, especially, you know, those that are quote, different, is important. I mean, some people don't understand that, you know, SOCUS issues affects the trans community. SOCUS groups, SOCUS issues affects those that are part of the bi community, and you know, obviously the gay community.
Because that's the funny part about when people say the gay community, for example, or the trans community, that literally that one tiny little underlying thing is the only thing that links me and every other trans person. It's not because we all happen to also like Star Trek or something. It's literally just because we're trans. We have more uncommon about us than we do in common. I learned this at some of my first support groups when I came out, that when you focus on exactly right, what you said there, Beth, when we focus on those broader issues that will touch everyone there, those real human issues beyond that connection of being gay or being trans, I think that'll be a good way to go. Absolutely.
Well, I think too, one thing I said last week was that, yeah, we're all atheists. Did you ever try hurting atheists?
Oh, we're the worst. It's there's always a schism.
The only thing an atheist has in common with another atheist is, you know, a lack of belief or lack of acceptance, lack of however you want to put it or define what atheism is God.
Yeah, atheists don't even agree on what the definition of an atheist is.
I know. I've been going around. It's like, I'm the type, based on my personal, I hate using this word, research. I don't, I won't say I don't believe in God. I know God does not exist. Now, there is another word for it, and it slips my mind off at the moment, but oh my God, I mean, the arguments I have gotten into because I say, that, so I just am very neutral and I just don't believe in God and just leave it at that. It's like, I've gotten into numerous arguments about that. And I think I want to be all inclusive.
Yeah.
Give a shit. As long as if you say you're an atheist, you're an atheist. If you say you're a Christian, you're a Christian. And this is they're not, the whole no two Scotsmen fallacy.
Yeah, I hate that. I've had people do that to me because someone was they were having a discussion about I think it was I forget what they were posing. This person, he's a Christian, but he's a progressive Christian, but he was basically talking about hell, and I think he brought up a point where and he's like, this kind of bothers me. It's like, if you believe that people who don't believe like you are going to hell, how are you not just like openly weeping every second of the day? And then I was like, oh, well, there's plenty of Christians who are like glad. They're like, oh, I can't wait for you to go to hell and burn forever or whatever. And then somebody was like, oh, well, they're not real Christians. And I'm like,
well,
I
yeah,
mean, they are. You can't just, if they don't say something that you don't like, that doesn't mean you can be like, oh, well, they're not real Christians. Like, there's a bunch of atheists that are in the alt-right. I'm not going to be like, they're not real atheists because they are. Like, that's the thing. I can't just, you can't just distance yourself from, that kind of thing. You can be like, yeah, I'm an atheist, but I don't stand for what they do, whatever, that's fine. But I hate it when they're like, oh, well, they're not real Christians or they're not real, whatever, because it would be ridiculous if one of us made that argument, but they seem to get away with it.
Well, it's just, who was it? It was in the past year. I think it was surrounding one of the shootings. And one of the perp had liked friendly atheist and
I do remember that he had just liked the Facebook page. Yeah,
it's like without talking to the dude, if he says he's in, but as far as I know, if I remember correctly, he never specifically stated that he was an atheist, if I remember correctly. But it's like, who really cares if he is or not? Because if people are going to use the argument that no true Christian would do that, and I lost my point. Dab. Shit.
But yeah, it's like, no, you can't just use that as it's a cop out to me. I feel like, in a way, for you to not address the problems that are happening within your own community in a way. So that's what I see that as.
Yeah, it's just like you said, it's a cop out, and it's just like, and you can't really argue against it or argue for it.
Because they'd be like, how do you know? You're not a Christian, so you can't tell. Yeah, so it's just like, all right, believe what you want. I don't care. Like, at that point, I'm like, I have things to do.
Yeah, I think one of the things I've realized this week is that while I want to, and you guys chime in, is there's just so many. I feel like I'm gonna burp. There's just so many things going on in our society, whether it's specifically here in the States or something internationally, like the whole Brexit.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I'm trying to do a gather Brexit for dummies because
they don't even understand Brexit though. That's the thing. Like,
Well, I have a couple friends over in the UK who are highly involved in this whole Brexit thing. I know one who is for it and one who is against it, and they happen to be friends, which is really
That's interesting.
Yeah, but
I know that it's gotten significantly less popular because I was actually in England when Brexit happened, and I remember the next day I was like, "Did they bring over a bunch of Americans to go vote in this? Like, I thought you guys were supposed to be smarter than us because they were saying, well, I didn't know what the European Union was, but I just voted to leave it."
yeah,
And I'm like, quick Google, or I don't know, refrain from voting because you don't feel informed to make that decision. Like I don't know. Like, and the people were like, "Oh, well, I didn't think we were actually going to do it," and I'm like, "Why? Why would you think that?" And then other people, saying, "Oh, well, we're going to do a revote." And I'm like, "No." No, that was the vote. That was the time for you to go and make an informed decision about this. But yeah, it was just bananas. And I was just like, yeah, you can't call us dumb ever again. And then we elected Donald Trump. So that ended my smugness. That was before the election. That was actually right before the Republican National Convention, actually.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, I'm like totally baffled by it, but from what I understand is that it will have international implications more so in Europe than it will here, but we're still going to get that trickle down effect. So if I don't understand it, I'm pretty sure there's probably other people that don't either. I mean, I'm no dummy and I'm no slouch, but I am totally baffled by it. So I am trying to put together a Brexit for dummies. I don't know if it'll come together if I can't get these two on the same page is what I want to do, but yeah, it's just but there's just so much. I mean, we have the whole SOCUS issue. We have the bullshit with Trump and Trump and Putin, and we have the Mueller investigation,
and then all of Trump's minions too, and the government, like DeVos and whoever he's going to get for Interior Secretary next. I just read that it was as somebody who does a lot of environmental law. No, not a Russian. That would be amazing. I'd be like, this man truly does not give any more fucks anymore. Jesus. But but no, it's a coal lobbyist, basically. Like, he does a lot of stuff with coal and basically, pushing that climate change denial kind of typical stuff. As Secretary of Interior, which is the organization that I always thought was kind of funny because it deals with the outdoors, and it is called the Department of the Interior. But they do all of our national parks and things of that nature. But yeah, so you're getting like a coal lobbyist, a guy who wants to expand drilling, and the guy before him, Zinke, he wanted to drill him in national parks, and you can just imagine going through Yellowstone, and then you see like bunch of oil wells and fracking being done, like, obviously not what they're set up for.
Because of the fracking. I don't know if that's true or not, whether it causes waste.
Well, there is a correlation. There's some interesting science that does, but fracking does cause a lot of other things to happen, because usually it can disrupt, water tables, things like that. And so then you get into like, are they making sure that they're being responsible about nearby water supplies and things like that? So that's the angle that I studied it from, dealing with a lot of issues with water law and environmental law. So yeah, there was a lot of stuff happening there. Like, everybody in the administration's just so corrupt and also very dumb. So it's like, it's the worst.
Just reminds me of that Simpsons episode where they're just like, we want to drill for oil and Teddy Roosevelt's head. They're up on Mount Rushmore with them, and they're like,
I mean, literally, that's exactly what drilling in a national park is to me. It's drilling. Essentially, it's because it was his idea, and it's like, oh, Teddy Roosevelt would have loved this, and I'm like, no, he would have beat all of your asses, and he would have succeeded because he was like, a boxer and like a badass who would like ride moose, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's craziness.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, there's just so many issues out there. And I mean, we've just touched on a few, and I think one of the things I've become aware is that especially for me personally, is I have so many irons in the fire that I feel like I'm not doing my due diligence. So as you guys are listening, if there's something specific you think we should cover in the way we cover things, you know, shout it out. Don't be afraid. I mean, I think we will take any and all suggestions. I mean, going forward, yes, I do have the next, 7-8 weeks covered with possibly another 5 or 6, depending. I don't like to book too far out because then people forget, and then I'm left with no show host or show guest, and it's like, then what do we do? There's always the news. News is always my backup, but it's like, what should we focus on? Is there something we really should be paying attention to, and not to discount issues that are already present, such as the trans ban in the military here in the U.S. I know in Ontario they have the whole Ford debacle, and this is why I'm glad that Sam's on board, because she can keep us abreast of what's going on up in Canada. And being that I literally lived, I mean, the Peace Bridge was literally behind my house when I lived in the city in Buffalo. I was up in Canada quite a bit when I was younger, and I mean, now I don't have a passport. I can't get up there. Hopefully it'll be here soon. Not that it'll do me any good other than to go see Sam. But,
You act like that's no good.
No, that's a good reason, but logistics. I have logistics running through my head. How am I going to get up there? But so I mean, there are so many issues. It's like, and if we cover one and don't cover another, are we not doing our due diligence as atheists? And that's one of the perceptions that I've noticed among people, is that, oh, you think you're so smart because you're an atheist. No, it's because I hopefully pay attention to what's going on in the world. But
yeah, you have to be because the thing is too, like, there's a lot of atheists that are also not critical thinkers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the thing. Like, because and I would like to also continue, tackling the woo stuff and cults and, or cult episodes. I know everybody seemed to enjoy it, because who doesn't love a good story about a cult? But, yeah, but I think that'd be good stuff to tackle as well, because I mean, that is happening. Even people who aren't per se religious, we're still doing, woo stuff, whether that be, eating certain things or anti-vax or what.
Flat Earth.
Flat Earth, yeah.
Flat Earth scares me too much. It's never my strong suit. But it's just like, if y'all remember, we did the episode on the new cult.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, and I just found out that one Jillian Epperly, my favorite cabbage, is reconnecting with them.
They're merging. I love how they're doing a merger and acquisition of like the cult and of cults. Like, that's something that we have truly reached late stage capitalism. We're having the cults merge with one another. So there will only be 3.
Yeah, she was on a Blog Talk Radio episode last week by one of the new, I'll say, minion. I'm not quite sure where she stands in the new hierarchy. And it's like, you tried this about 3 years ago and backed out because you didn't want to promote their stuff while they were promoting your stuff, and supposedly exchange books and shit. So I'm looking into all that. But then, like, Sam and I were talking before the show, and it's going to be in my segment on TWATs coming up in a few minutes, because someone's got to use the restroom. But it's like sticking parsley up her twat. It's like, hello, Gwyneth Paltrow. So, and then we're going to have Professor Stephen on sometime in the next 2 months. um, we're going to talk about radon caves. You know, radon gas that you're supposed to avoid in your house. People are going into caves to do whatever they do. I haven't really read into it yet, but it's like,
they're basking in the radiation.
yes,
You know, as one would on the beach.
yeah.
Just
So, but it's like, what do we, and I mean all of us listeners as well, as atheists focus on? You know, and that's why I think for me and you know prior to tonight is that one thing we tried to do was to hit topics that didn't seem to be in the news, although I seem to have competition in finding topics because more and more podcasters and YouTubers are hitting these woo topics. Like,
well, yeah, and I think another thing, I don't know, I haven't had this confirmed or not, but I have heard through the rumor mill, the Hollywood grapevine, that Gwyneth Paltrow is getting basically a Goop series on Netflix.
yep.
Oh, that's true. Okay.
Yes, it is. Well, I don't know if it's true, but it's in the works. Let's say, yeah. There. I mean, and in my going back to this lack of critical thinking, even among those that claim atheism, is that to me this is goes back to the whole bullshit with back in 2012. Part of Texas Republican platform was not teaching critical thinking in schools. So we're now starting to see the beginnings of this lack of critical thinking.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I think that's been a problem throughout. Like, I think throughout history, that's been like an issue of people not critically thinking. But also, yeah, it is becoming, I feel like, a little bit more exacerbated, especially kind of like regionally almost, because, that was the thing with the Texas Republicans. But then, you have another area where maybe there's at least a little bit more critical thinking that's being fostered. So you're having these very like, weird things where people are literally living in different realities, which is scary. It's like, that's why you can't reason with, at this point, if somebody's still a Trump supporter, like, you can't reason with them, especially if they're into the whole like QAnon conspiracy and all that. Like, they're too far gone by that point. Like, when you're what's really fun, and I've joked about, out conspiracying the conspiracy theorist, like if they're like just completely wackadoo, and being like, the moon landing's fake, and just responding with, you believe in the moon? Like just kind of like doing that. And I joke about it, but like, that's how far gone people are now, like to where there actually are people who are like, not only was the moon landing fake, but the moon isn't even real, and it's just like this, almost this competition, I feel like, of who can make the most outrageous conspiracy, the most outrageous claim. And then because you said it or put it out there, they feel like it's plausible. And I used to have fun, talking, debunking conspiracy theories, or, about like the JFK assassination, things like that. But again, it comes back to, most likely explanation usually being it. But, yeah, but now it's like, because they've taken over the government essentially, because our president is a conspiracy theorist, it's lost its fun. It's gotten kind of dark, and there definitely always was that dark side of conspiracy theories, but I feel like that dark side of conspiracy theories is really starting to present itself more to mainstream culture, or be more widespread, that dark underbelly of it.
It's just like when we did the QAnon episode a couple weeks ago. One of the people I brought up was Liz Crokin, and today, through Right Wing Watch, she basically said if the arrests of these pedophile satanic bullshit people like Hillary Clinton and John Podesta, etc., doesn't happen soon, I'm going to have to stop supporting QAnon, and maybe the people will take. I'm paraphrasing here, justice into their own hands, and I'm thinking, oh my god.
Girl, that's like what we call inciting violence. Like, you can't just say wild. That's the thing. And then somebody else tried to go and burn that pizza restaurant. Like, it's like that man has had his window shot out all because some idiots on the internet are like, you're hiding children in the basement, and the restaurant doesn't even have a basement. Like, that's also the one of the mind-boggling things about it. And it just imagine, like, it does affect these people, because imagine you're just running a pizza restaurant and then all of a sudden people are shooting out your windows and screaming that you're kidnapping children for Hillary Clinton or something crazy. Like, what the fuck? I'm just here to make pizza. So it does affect, people in real life, and it's important to remember that, and I think that's why we do tackle this, because it does affect people and it has real consequences.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to play Twats because I do have to run to the restroom. And for those of you watching right now, let me know if this comes through properly, because I only tested it once. And then this is about 8 to 12 minutes long, and I have a rant about Jillian at the end because she said some really dumb fucking shit this week, which really pissed me off. But so this will be about 8 to 12 minutes. I don't remember the exact length, but let me know if you all hear this. And so, I have something a bit old but new to share. Haven't done this in a while, so I bring to you thoughts. People who do or say the dumbest things. Well, I think they're dumb, because they're downright idiotic. Here we go. Before I hit this first one, I want you to note that the investigation is still underway, and it has not been determined whether the contact was intentional or not on the perpetrator's part. But it does go to a point we made on a recent Beyond the Trailer Park before. These people are uneducated or undereducated in the ways of the indigenous culture and should not be allowed anywhere near such.
Missionary may face genocide charges after contacting isolated Brazilian tribe.
This is from the Friendly Atheist. As Hammett notes, quote, so, was this just a case of GPS leading a missionary astray? Perhaps, but Chow's death may have encouraged other missionaries to continue what he began by ignoring the warnings and risking their lives to spread the gospel. Campbell had also been living with the Jamamati tribe for years, but the Guardian notes that he was doing so without authorization, which suggests a history of ignoring laws to spread his faith. There are so many details we don't have yet, but the headline is one we've seen before. Unless churches teach their congregations that indigenous tribes deserve to be left alone, both for medical reasons and ethical ones, this will keep happening, unquote. Avoiding Trump bullshit news is impossible. I've given up trying. Here's 3 stories with his slime all over them in some ways. You think the shutdown's over? Not for these folks.
The lowest paid shutdown
Union leaders say. And even as they began returning to work Monday, they were bracing for more pain. President Trump's new deadline for Congress to earmark funding for his proposed border wall is February 15th. Agencies could close again if no deal is reached. As noted by MSN, a group of Democratic senators introduced a bill last month aimed at changing that. Mark Warner, Democrat out of Virginia, Tim Kaine, another Democrat from Virginia, and Sherrod Brown, a Democrat out of Ohio, have proposed legislation that would repay contractors up to $965 per week with public monies and restore sick days used during the shutdown. It's unclear at the time I recorded this whether this will advance.
Donald Trump's spiritual advisor, Paula White, suggests people send her their January salary or face consequences from God.
First of all, if you honestly think you are Trump's spiritual advisor, I'm not sure what planet you are from, what reality you are based in. The Donald takes no advice from anybody. You are window dressing, my darling. That's it. You're a fucking blonde. Second, ignoring whether God exists for the moment, your justification makes absolutely no sense. You preach a first fruit doctrine, the idea that all firsts belong to God, including the first harvest and apparently the first month of your salary. There's one problem with that. You ain't fucking God, you moron. You, individually, and your church deserve nothing.
Trump seemingly endorses bringing Bible study back to public schools.
This is from Hill Reporter, and they state that President Donald Trump seemed to endorse the idea that public schools across the nation should offer Bible study in their curricula, according to a tweet he issued out Monday morning. Numerous states introducing Bible literacy classes, giving students the option of studying the Bible. Trump observed in his tweet, starting to make a turn back. Great. Trump's statement is somewhat misleading. According to The Hill, states haven't yet introduced the classes to students, but rather 6 states across the country have introduced bills that would, if passed, allow or require public schools in their jurisdiction to offer such classes. Those classes would teach about the Bible in a mostly historical sense, according to reporting from Politico. Critics of the bill, however, contend that those classes would blur the line between an established separation of church and state, which forbids the reading and teaching of Bible verses in the public school setting. As Friendly Atheists note in their story, quote, the North Dakota bill at the center of this controversy died in the state Senate after a 42-5 vote against it on January 25th. Now, the last 2 stories are a titch older than the past week, but they were stories that Deb and I had discussed, and I was actually going to do a Twattwaffle, then shit happened. So they're a little bit older, but still kind of funny.
Doctors ask that you please do not put parsley in your vagina.
According to the Post, New York Post, I should say, wellness warriors seem to be obsessed with telling women to stick random things in their vaginas. And the latest piece of bizarre advice suggests sticking parsley up there to help induce your period. in a recent article by Mary Claire, and it has been since deleted, on how to bring on periods, which I really don't understand why anybody would want to do, but that's another thing. The author said that the herb is a natural emmenagogue, meaning that it can stimulate or increase menstrual flow. While that's true, there's a massive difference between sprinkling a bit of parsley over your pasta and shoving a bunch into your vagina.
Man hospitalized after injecting own semen to treat back pain.
This is from HuffPo. A new study published in the Irish Medical Journal recounts the case of a 33-year-old man who was hospitalized after repeatedly injecting himself with semen to relieve chronic back pain. And this is a quote from HuffPo, by the way. This is the first reported case of semen injection for use as a medical treatment, doctors in Dublin wrote in the case study titled Seemingly Harmless Back Pain, an Unusual Presentation of Subcutaneous Abscess. The man's handmade remedy was reportedly discovered when he showed up at a doctor's office complaining of severe back pain. While examining the patient, a physician noticed the man's right arm appeared swollen and inflamed. The explanation the man gave was one the doctors likely never expected. So, initially, I wasn't going to bring this individual up because y'all are probably getting sick of me talking about one Jillian Epperly. But the other night, she basically crossed the line for me. As some of you know, I have been tracking this twat for damn near 2 years. Well, the other night, the idiot crossed the line. She is not a doctor. She is not a psychiatrist, nor is she a psychologist. She has no training in the health field, nor any of the pertinent sciences. She is not a trained practitioner in any medical or social work field. Her cure-all for everything A to Z, as she puts it, is a salted, rotten cabbage brew with 9 times the RDA of salt. And I do mean rotten. I ferment. I have ferment from a month ago still in my fridge. No mold. No cam yeast. She has numerous videos, numerous photos of her brews that she basically tells her minions to skim off the crud and then stir it in. Now, I've maybe since perfecting my process, I don't believe I've had any mold, ever. So, be that as it may. Now, calling LGBT folk mutated was bad enough for me. That's what caught my attention. But the other night, at about 8 o'clock p.m., she posted the following screen grab. Speaking as a former cutter, yes, it is a coping mechanism. It's what's considered a malfunctioning coping mechanism that has absolutely nothing to do with the concept of self-medication. I have no idea what she means by self-medication. I really don't know. Those of us that self-injure are prone to basically internalize our emotions, or in some cases, the emotions of others. In my case, I took my father's anger at my so-called fuck-ups and turned them into a form of self-punishment when my boundaries were crossed and I blamed myself. In other words, I couldn't put my foot down without caving. I was an enabler. And it used to piss me off to the point where I'd get angry at myself because I'd get used and abused and taken advantage of, yada, yada, yada. You talk to anybody who self-injures, and each and every specific case has a different psychological background to it. In other words, each case is different. If you, specifically Jillian, if you think those that self-injure get or got, in my case, are jollies from slicing and dicing, you are very, very wrong. You aren't making a connection. You're not having a light bulb moment of understanding. You're a stupid fucking twat who has no business spouting off about something you know nothing about. You're going to do more harm than you are good. You basically are hurting people who take your words as gospel. Seriously, Jillian, shut the fuck up. You do not have any science behind your protocol. There is no supporting evidence that your protocol would even work. What you are doing is slowly suiciding people by consuming massive amounts of salt. End of rant. So, that was my Twattwaffles for the week.
Yeah, you got some real gems there. So, T-Berg sci-fi fan said about the guy that was injecting the semen in his arm, noted, and this is something I noticed as well, and they're like, oh, an arm injection, not a back injection.
Yeah, I as one who has had steroids injected into my spine because I blew out 3 discs about 10 years ago, yeah, I'm not quite sure how that works. I mean, shooting it into my arm wouldn't have done a damn bit of good. Like,
I mean, his remedy wouldn't have been effective if he put it in his back either, but, you know, it's just, yeah, it's like, I don't get that thought process. My back hurts, better inject my arm. And then the whole parsley thing, I was like, insert joke about seasoning your genitals here, but, it's, yeah, I feel like I don't get this sudden, I don't know if this has always been going on and people are just now like writing articles about it to get, because it is something like, it's like Gwyneth Paltrow is often, a topic of it. They're like, Gwyneth Paltrow told you to stick what up your vagina, so, those stories tend to trend well. So I don't know if it's just people are more like have caught on to that and so they're reporting it more, or if, it's this new resurgence, but I would be interested to just figure out if that is so, if it's like an increasing thing that people are suggesting, or if it's something that's been going on all along and just now being kind of reported.
well,
But yeah, I've noticed that there's more stories about that lately.
well, I think what it is, because I've been following, I've been following anti-vaxxers for damn near 10 years, maybe 12. I don't know, long time. And when I needed a break from the political commentary and what I used to normally write about, I decided to delve into the woo a little more and thinking it would be relaxing. Yeah, there's some really dumb fuckery going on there. But I think what it is that I'm going to use Jillian as an example, is that they come up with these cockamamie bullshit scam ideas to make money, and thankfully she's not making any money at it, but she still is influencing people.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was telling you, I think before the show started, that there's a podcast that I listen to, and I will recommend it to our listeners. It's called Sawbones. It's a if you're into medical history or like, just a humorous look at how we used to treat different ailments, everything from baldness to, acne. it's really interesting, and so it's a comedian and his wife who is actually a doctor, and she goes through and she tells all this, and he'll make jokes, but they actually did. I hadn't listened to it for a while and just started listening to the back episodes again, and they have one on her, on Jilly Juice and Jill Epperstein, or whatever her name is, but yeah, it seems like she apparently does have enough influence. The fact that people are starting to catch on to her, and the fact that a doctor felt the need to specifically address an episode to her woo.
Well, since we're recommending podcasts, Jeff Holliday's really good at. He's got a 6-part series out on Jillian, and he was actually on the Dr. Phil show that she made an appearance, and even Dr. Phil was like, I don't think this is a good idea. I mean, and on that presentation, if I remember correctly, because I haven't watched it in a while, there were 2 women who possibly had strokes. Well, they had strokes that can be attributed to the consumption of the Jilly Juice. Now, I'm a stroke survivor. I had 2 5 years ago, and the second one 4.5 years ago. It's hard to believe it's going to be 5 years in April, May, whenever it was. But it's like, yeah, that would be death sentence written all over it for me, and for anybody who is hypersensitive to salt consumption, it would most likely kill them. And she treats it like nothing. She's like, they're lying, basically. It's, oh, it's not the salt. I mean, she does not believe the amount of salt that she puts in her slop, and it is slop. I mean, I ferment, as I said in the TWAT episode. I mean, I ferment. I've been fermenting, God, probably close to 20 years. And I do make cabbage juice. I use it I do drink it, and I use it like when I make soup or whatever, or gravies, or I mean, I make a gallon at a time, and it usually lasts me about 3 to 4 weeks, depending. And I'll mix it in with I make homemade tomato juice and all that, so it's not crazy drinking a fermented drink. I mean, there's kombucha, there's kefir, which I never had a taste for, so I do like, but I have to like use the bare minimum of salt to get it to ferment. But I'm not going to put in a tablespoon of salt for 2 cups of liquid. What her recipe calls for, and even she herself. I mean, there's numerous videos of her saying, "Oh yeah, I use a tablespoon for a quart." No, that's not what your fucking recipe calls for. You said 2 cups of cabbage, 2 cups of water, and 1 tablespoon of salt. You're using a third or half of what you state in your book, and I've read both her books. I have them both. But Jeff Holiday exposes this. Miles Powers has done 2 episodes on it. I mean, and there's numerous videos out there. I have on my science woo blog, iScience Do You. I have a whole listing of articles that I've written myself deconstructing her book. I mean, her science is terrible, and that's like, I mean, Gwyneth Paltrow says, "Oh, I have science," and it's like, yeah, you have one outlier scientist who says that your shit works. Whereas
it's like that thing if Google was a person, is like, I have all these things, all these articles saying no, and this one paper saying yes. I knew it.
That's exactly what it is. You can pay somebody probably enough money to say whatever the hell you want them to say. I mean, as someone who works in the practice of law, I'm very familiar with that practice.
Just ask Donald Trump's doctor.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
he's perfectly healthy at 200 and X amount of pounds or whatever it is. It's like, I mean, and that, like, for me, that's what I've been focusing on, since my strokes, really, because the politics and the focus issues for me and the LGBT issues have been so overwhelming. I mean, for me, regardless from the strokes, I have post-stroke depression, and I'm bipolar on top of it, so it's really been a fun 4 years. I get into and all this stuff going on. It's just like, oh, I can't deal with this. So I'd have to take a little break. But yeah, the amount of woo out there, and that's why we'll have Professor Stephen on occasionally throughout the beer, etc. To talk about it, and there's a couple videos I want to bring out that are kind of interesting. Yeah, it's like Papa Penis said. I'll definitely say anything anyone wants me to say if they pay me that way. I'm sorry I read that completely backwards, but yeah, I mean it's like it's just the stupid. I mean, irregardless of politics, the stupid is just beyond pale, and it's getting worse. I mean, you have people like Jillian, you have people like Gwyneth Paltrow. Not to pick on the Patriots and Tom Brady, because I kind of sort of like the Patriots, but I do not like Tom Brady. His fucking diet
is woo. Yeah, I was talking about that actually with a clerk at my firm, and yeah, we were talking about how I'm not one of those people that's like Tom Brady's overrated, because obviously he's a very talented quarterback. I mean, but still at the same time, yeah, I was talking about his diet and his woo and all this stuff that he's into, which, I mean, for quarterback, yeah, I get it, especially if you're aging, you need to eat healthy and everything and, have a certain kind of diet for an NFL quarterback, especially of a team of that caliber. But at the same time, it's like his is so extreme. It's, I don't know if you remember all what it is, but he can't have caffeine, no processed anything. Like, it's, yeah, it's kind of crazy.
SciBabe did an article about a year ago
on his diet,
deconstructing his diet, and it's just, it's so full. Like gluten, for example, unless you are celiac, lack of gluten they are now finding, it's not 100% definitive, but that normal people, us, they can eat normal foods. Lack of gluten can cause issues. This whole clean eating. I mean, it's just I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, I'm diabetic. I'm supposed to be careful about what I eat. I'm a terrible diabetic, by the way. I do eat sugar, but I don't eat. Well, I can't say I don't eat a lot of pasta, because towards the end of the month I do, because it's cheap and I can stretch my meats. But I don't eat meat. I was vegan for 20 years, and not for ethical reasons, not for dietary reasons. I just don't like meat. I still don't. I do eat chicken, and I will eat pork like once a month, but mostly I eat chicken and fish. But there's no medical reason, there's no woo behind it. I just don't like meat. But where I live in Pennsylvania, I cannot get a proper, vegan food source. I mean, I literally live in buttfuck nowhere. We have one grocery store.
Yeah.
It's like, so when I moved here it'll be 20 years next August. When I moved here, I had to slowly incorporate, plus my doctor at the time was like, yeah, your numbers for, like, they did a full blood panel. Your numbers are terrible, you're malnourished. I'm 220 pounds. How can I be malnourished? Yeah, I'm fat. But it's crazy, and so I try to eat properly. I'm terrible at it. As I sit here smoking a cigarette, drinking Diet Pepsi on my second 2-liter for tonight. But yeah, it's just it can really cause damage, especially when you have people like, I mean, we've talked about MS a couple years ago, shoving a bleaching agent up your kid's ass to try to cure autism. No, Jillian thinks the salt, well, the cabbage and the salt combined give you full nutrition. The whole jade egg thing, or now this parsley, in your vajayjay to bring on your dot. Excuse me, that's the last thing I wanted when I wasn't in menopause. I'm sorry. I'm gonna be blatantly honest. When I read that article, I was like, why the fuck would anybody want to bring on their dot?
Yeah, that was something I was thinking too, because I have an IUD and therefore I don't have one, and I love it. I am like, thank you, pharmaceuticals and science. Like, I know pharmaceutical companies aren't like, there's ethical issues they do, and bad things they do and all that. But overall, like, yeah, that's one thing that I'm very thankful for. And the fact that people are just like, and I have heard, there's some woo surrounding that and some woo surrounding birth control. They'd be like, oh, well, it's not healthy for you to do that. And I'm like, A, I don't care, quite frankly. And then B, it's like they're just saying that because it doesn't seem natural to them. And yeah, and it's this whole like, oh, but it has to be all natural thing. And it's like, yeah, but like, I don't know, you put parsley on your pasta. That's where it goes. Stop sticking weird stuff up your vajayjays.
Well, it's just like two possible shows, but I'm definitely working on blog postings concerning is drinking turpentine.
I'm sorry?
Drinking turpentine. You know, the shit you put your paintbrush in?
Yeah.
And drinking urine. Your own, preferably. But
oh, yeah. I saw the Dr. Phil one on that.
Yeah.
Oh, Dr. Phil did one on that?
Oh, yeah, he brought the girl on. She like, oh.
I mean,
it was like watching a rock star not have heroin and just need to put something in their eyeball. So she literally put her own urine in her eyeball and like took it that way. Like, yeah.
Was she like, did she think it cured stuff, or was she one of those like My Strange Addiction kind of situation?
It's woo, like health woo, like
okay.
It's fixing all these things for her, but then the doctor told her it was actually making her sicker.
yeah, because that's how your body gets rid of like waste and bacteria and all that.
It's a toxin.
There was one woman who also was using it as eye drops to allegedly clear up pink eye, conjunctivitis. And she showed a before picture before she started doing, okay, yeah, definite pink eye. She had like the sty and all this other crap. And she's like, yeah, look how it's healing. And it was like, you're going to lose your eye. That's all I'm going to say, because
okay, I was just gonna be like, nope, this is gross. I'm out of here.
It grossed me out, okay? And I watched Dr. Pimple Popper, okay? So it really fucking grossed me out. I've watched surgeries of them taking bugs out of people's ears that were still alive. But yeah, and then when I found the other day, and I'm trying to verify if this story is true, is there's no nice way to put this, but it concerns your diet and drinking, and that's as far as I will go. For medical reasons, yes.
For medical reasons, okay, because I had heard, and there's a lot of urban legends around that, I feel like, too.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
so, yeah, it is hard to kind of tell, and now that these, things are coming up where it's like, oh, here's the weird stuff people are saying to do with your vagina, it's like, I feel like there's going to be some more of these where it's like no one's actually advocating for this, or, it's like something that one person did one time, so, yeah, it is interesting.
A Facebook screenshot that I got a hold of. It was in a woo group. I will keep the woo group anonymous because I don't know if this story is true or not, or someone's just making shit up. But she was, she felt it was a cure-all. And she goes, I've been doing it for 3 weeks now and I feel great. It's like, oh my fucking God. But yeah, and that's, I think, going to become more prevalent if current political climate stays for another 4 years. It's going to get worse. And
yeah.
It's like, what do we do?
It always get dumber, is what I've learned. That's what I've learned in my 20s. I'm like, it can always get worse, and it can always get a lot dumber.
It's like, what do we do? How do we approach this? Do we even broach these topics? Do we ignore them and hope they go away, and then turn into a Gwyneth Paltrow sticking jade eggs up your hoo-hoo. I mean, it's so overwhelming. If you got topics that you can send links to, you can send them to me on Facebook. You can send them to Morgan, send them to Sam. I mean, I think the three of us are pretty much game for anything.
Yeah, because there's so much to cover. And I mean, yeah, it's like what you said, it's like, are we covering the right things and everything? But I think that is what you were saying earlier with Samantha coming on. It's, the more voices we have, the better, because somebody
Well,
needs to be tackling at least some of it because there's so much out there.
I mean, and that's the thing. It's like when I was putting the Twattwaffles segment together, it was like it literally wrote itself. I mean, these were just so ridiculous. Like, even the bit about the federal worker, the contract workers that probably are not going to get back pay.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, why should I care? Because a fellow human being now can't pay their mortgage or their rent.
Yeah.
And for every week you get behind financially, it takes you 3 weeks to catch up. Are they going to, be afforded that? Like in my case, like the job I have where I work, I can't work any more hours than I already am unless I go into at a different position and knock somebody else out of theirs.
Yeah.
And physically because of my strokes, there's some things I can't do. So working in the kitchen, as a line cook would not be the best fit for me because physically the right side of my body is useless, especially in my hand. So stretching a pizza, I get a lot of square pizzas. I've had a triangle once, but that was mine. But yeah, it's like, some of those people aren't going to be afforded a chance to even make up, in overtime. And a lot of people, oh, they're federal workers, they make enough. No, some of those people are making $9 an hour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and those are the people that aren't getting the paid back.
Mm-hmm.
The people who probably need it. I mean, I'm not saying that nobody isn't deserving of their back pay because, of course, they should all be getting their back pay. But yeah, and I do know this. I don't know if this was including because I did not have time to read the bill, and I can't even remember where I saw it. But I think it was it was a law thing that I follow. I'm not sure what account, but they were saying that Doug Jones, the newly elected senator from Alabama, he introduced a bill that actually would pay back federal workers with interest.
Yeah, I heard too, but I didn't delve too deeply into it.
So I don't know if that includes these workers or not, but I mean, still, I think that would probably be a good thing to get passed.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, it's like, but again, it comes down to the question of, okay, case in point, Flint, Michigan still does not have drinkable water.
Yeah.
I've heard jack shit about it. Do we, or what was the other one? I can't remember now. But there was another incident that happened 2-3 years ago that has not been resolved. Then you have the douchebag in office threatening to take away FEMA funding for Paradise, California, that was literally burned down, whole town pretty much, in the last spat of forest fires. And that has, an effect on us because those people are out of homes, out of jobs, lost their vehicles, somehow we as a society are going to have to make up for it. And then for Sam, I mean, she and others up in Ontario are dealing with the fallout from Doug Jones. There's so much stuff. It's, I don't think we'll ever run out of topics.
Speaking of, unfortunately, I won't normally do this, but I do have to toddle out a little bit early tonight, unfortunately. So I will wish everyone some love in a moment. And I really look forward to bringing some good topics to the table over the next few weeks here with y'all.
Yeah. Do you want to say where people can find you, if we can find you anywhere?
Oh yeah.
Just for the moment, just on Facebook. I'm keeping it simple. I don't have any of my own projects out there just yet because, again, I don't want to burn out. Starting small with this, working my way out. So, Samantha Mondegreen on Facebook, absolutely. You look me up on YouTube as well. With Beyond the Trailer Park episodes, you'll see me in there. But that's it for now. I don't have a big setup for now. There, one day.
Okay. Well, we are kind of close to 9:30, so basically I was going to go until we run out of shit to say, and I think I'm starting to repeat myself anyway. So we'll cut it off a little early tonight. So whenever you're ready, Sam, you can just scoot out. And thank you.
Works.
And welcome aboard.
It was lovely to be with you both.
Yes. Yeah, I'm excited to have you.
Me too. I'm excited to be here.
We're going to rock this joint.
We are.
All right. Bye for now, everyone.
All right. Take care, hon.
Bye.
And Morgan, where can we find you?
All right. Well, you can find me on Twitter. That's at Mostring, MOSTRING. You can also find me on Instagram at that same handle. And you can also find me on Facebook, Morgan L. Stringer.
Excellent. You got to write that down for me someday in case you can't make it. And I got to say it. I think Deb had it memorized. I'm terrible.
Oh no, I'll send it to you at some point.
No rush, but yeah, the easiest way to find me is on Twitter, Dune9998. That connects to my blog, which is Havoc and Chaos, and I write about basically. Well, I don't write. I post basically the atrocities in the church, primarily dealing with the pedophile priests, but not just Roman Catholic. I'm getting more and more stories concerning Buddhists, obviously Muslims, and non-Catholic denominations as well. And I don't highlight civil cases unless they're, a big story like Cardinal Pell, for example. And then I put show notes up there, so you can always look there for show notes, which will also be posted in our group and our show page. And I will throw the links in for them in the description. I forgot to do that as I was still trying to learn this software. It's been an interesting 2 weeks trying to cram. I feel like I'm back in college cramming for an exam.
Yeah.
But I did discover tonight that I cannot mute myself. I do that. I cut off the audio. I wonder why it worked last week, but oh well. You can also find me on YouTube under Beth A. Hambridge. I've been doing some more videos, just stuff that drives me insane, deconstructing, mostly evolutionists or creationists. Yeah. But my Twattwaffle episodes will be up there as well, and books I read, like book reviews and stuff. And of course you can find me on Facebook under Beth A. Hambridge as well. And if you send me a friend's request, somehow signify that it's a show, because I most likely won't approve you, because I do get trolls. And because I do anti-vax stuff, I get some interesting ones. But yeah, so next week we are going to have the crew from Waiting for Wrath. They're out of the West Midwest. They're a pretty fun group of guys.
Yeah, they are.
Well, and gals. What we're going to do going forward is basically I'm going to bring in other podcasters that I am familiar with or Morgan is familiar with, just until I get the tech issues figured out. I still huge learning curve, as you guys saw tonight, especially with the intro. I'm so sorry about that. I must remember not to open a window and forget that you opened it. But with that, next week, same time, same place, same faces, although you can't see mine. I don't know how that figure out. I haven't figured that out yet. I don't know how Deb did that. But I'm going to leave you with Dave Photos. Oh, before I forget, for those of you familiar, Ari Stillman has a GoFundMe up. If you can pass it around, great. If you can donate, great. It's I don't remember specifically, but it's something to do with her service dog. So if you can help them out, it would be appreciated. If you know of other GoFundMe's or that should be advertised, send them to me because I sometimes miss them. I want to try to publicize them a little bit better. Ari's is the only one I'm currently aware of, so it's not something I want to post in the group per se, but keep a lookout for that. They could use all the help they can get. Vet bills can be very expensive. So with that, thank you all for coming. I think a majority of you may be Sam's friends and appreciate your support. And I mentioned last week, no Patreon until I get the financials figured out. We have to get that all transferred over into mine or Morgan's name. And I don't know how to do that yet. And Sam has to get into Deb's computer to see how we go about doing that. So thank you guys again. And here is Dave Foda's Humanist Creed.
I know the truth and power of reason and of rational thinking, and I will use them to my advantage. I know the truth and power of educating myself and of expanding my intellectual boundaries, and I will educate myself. I know the truth and power of vanquishing ignorance, and I will do so whenever the opportunity presents itself. I know the truth and power of morality without supervision, and of true and accurate righteousness. I know the truth and power of obliterating tyranny, be it intellectual, emotional, or philosophical, and will work toward that goal whenever and however possible. I know the truth and power of human ingenuity. I know the truth and power of human compassion, and I will be mindful of the welfare of others. I know the truth and power of equality and fairness for all living things. I know the truth and power of the importance of our families, our friends, and our fellow men and women. I know the truth and power of human stewardship of our lands, our waters, and our skies, and I will try to act to preserve our environment. I know the truth and power of the sciences of mathematics, physics, and of chemistry, and of the important role of these disciplines in understanding the workings of this cosmos. I know the truth and power of the rejection of all notions or beliefs that reside in the supernatural or the superstitious, and of those notions or beliefs that we are not supposed to be able to explain. And I know that these rejections are necessary for humankind's survival. I am a human being with a free mind, liberated from irrational influence and from unreasonable dogma.